Okay, welcome back to this week's series of Ask Bill. My name is Bill Dow. I have 29 years of hands-on experience. If you've got questions, I know tons of questions have been coming in, so thank you all. But questions, you'll see Bill Dow at dowpublishingllc.com or Dow Publishing on Facebook. So you guys ready to go? Let's get started. So the first question this week is how important is a PMP certification? This has come up multiple times, and I have continually getting asked this question. I think it's tremendously important. I think from a project manager perspective, you've got to have that foundation. You've got to have that basis of what is project management and all the methodologies and all the goodness that PMI brings with that PMP certification. Do I think it's critical to be successful to run a project? No. I told this story earlier, and I'll tell it again because I think it's fascinating. But a friend of mine named John actually built a nuclear plant. And John and I were talking, and I said, John, that's funny, you don't actually have your PMP. And he said, Bill, I actually built a nuclear plant. I don't think I need it. And so, point taken, touche, as you may say. But I think that's a great call out. And so, it's not critical to running a project. But from a hiring manager's perspective, I only look for people with a PMP certification because I know they're dedicated to the profession. They're dedicated to learning. I have my PMP and I've had for 19 plus years. So I think it's really important. And I think it's definitely something that's going to give every project manager that foundation of how to manage and run a project. So great question came in from Cora. So love that question, and I will answer it the same way multiple times. Question 2, what is project risk management? So one of my customers from Dow Publishing actually asked me this question, and so what I wanted to do was cover it. So risk management, right? What's the risk on a project? Well, a risk is an event that may take place, right? So an issue is an event that's currently taking place, and a risk is an event that may take place. And so lots of good definitions, and go Google it, go Bing it, but lots of definitions about risk management. But basically, it's all about understanding the risks on the project and managing those risks so they don't become issues. And so part of the weekly task of running a project is looking at the project risks and issues and really being that proactive risk manager of those risks. So project risk management is really about managing the risks that could occur on your project. Okay, and so lots of good information on that. Go Google it, go Bing it. But the basic foundation is proactive risk management, or proactively managing the things that could occur on your project. How do you prepare for a project manager interview? That's a great question. And it came in from Quora, so I really love that. And so basically, when you think about the question, how to prepare for an interview, you really need to understand a couple things about the company. So, is it a software company? Is it a research company? Is it a manufacturing company? It's really going to depend on what they do, right? What the company does, because the project management can vary differently from manufacturing to research to project. One of the things I just love doing is I love understanding and getting a bucket of questions, right? So I love getting a bucket of project manager questions. So go Google project manager questions, or go Bing project manager questions, and really having those questions that in your stable of questions, and then running through those questions. But I think when you're preparing for an interview and preparing for a project manager interview, you really do need to know a lot about the company and really the background of that company, so you understand how they're managing projects today. And then just go through the standard, how do you manage a project? What are the tough aspects of managing a project? And again, lots of great questions on the web. I put communication questions in the back of my book, Project Management Communication Tools. But again, go out to the web. But that's how I prepare, is I just pound through question after question and making sure I'm up and really understand the company and understand kind of the basics of what people will ask you. Because the standard project manager questions don't vary from company to company, really. So it's really about having that bucket, that list of questions. Question 4, how do you close down a project? This came from Facebook. I love this question too, right? And so when you think about closing down a project, it's really about shutting down the weekly meeting, shutting down the website, shutting down the SharePoints, your OneNotes, your Teams, right? But it's also about really getting that sign off and that approval. I really don't think you should shut down a project until you get that formal approval. When you think about contracts and you think about construction projects, for example, that formal customer acceptance and that formal customer approval is huge. And so so you have to apply that same across software and manufacturing and research. So shutting down a project is really closing down all the aspects that you run on a week-to-week basis, but really locking that signature and locking that sign-off and making sure you have that sign-off done. I think it's a really great question, and a lot of people don't do a great job at this because they're managing so many projects today that shutting down a project, they don't really take that formal approach to it, but I think it's really, really important. And again, you have to when you think about a construction project and all the contracts and the legal side of that. Okay, last question. Question 5, how do you run a PMO? And this comes from Facebook. And I love this question as well because basically this is a foundation and the components that I put in my book, the PMO Lifecycle, Building, Running, and Shutting Down. And I put all these aspects. So I'm going to give you the steps, really 10 key steps. 1 is define your color definitions. 2 is set up your CR process. 3 is define your program and project manager playbooks. 4 is define your PMO priority list. 5 is define your weekly checklist. What do you want your program managers, portfolio managers, project managers do on a week-to-week basis? 6 is set up your transition plans. 7 is develop your PMO templates. 8 is execute on your PMO reports. 9 is review and select your PMO tools. This is where you start piloting. And 10 is continue to really provide that value conversation, right? Is what's your elevator speech? What's the value your PMO is doing? So these are the top 10 steps to running a PMO. Now, you may have heard in earlier weeks, we talked about the steps, the 12 steps of building a PMO. Well, these are 11 steps to running a PMO. And so that's a fundamental difference, right? You set up and you build a PMO, and then you turn around and then you run that PMO. So the 11 steps we just covered here, they're not necessarily the same steps that are done in the building phase. So I really want PMO managers to look at building a PMO and running a PMO as very different aspects, because they certainly are. Once you build it, you have to run it. So think about that as well. My name is Bill Dow. I'm excited to be answering these questions. These are live questions that come up every week, and I absolutely love it. And again, email me at billdow@dowpublishingllc.com. Thank you all, and I will see you online. Thank you.